Did you mean to share all your screens?
I guess I didn't. Here we go.
Yep.
How's that?
Yeah, looks good.
Here we go.
Did you mean to share all your screens?
Do we have more orders? FFFR? They have shipped the Bino. Are you live?
Well, hello, everybody. This is Scott Roberts from Explore Scientific, and today I've got with me our special guest, Caitlin Ahrens, who has a new show coming up, actually airing tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central, called 7 Months of Science. It's going to be great to have her on. Of course, Jerry Hubbell's with us as well, and he'll be talking about the OpenGOTO community, some of the firmware updates, and he may have one or two things up his sleeve, so we're not quite sure about that. But
Yeah,
anyhow,
I got a short sleeve, so I don't
you
know.
do have a short sleeve, right? So, all right. Anyhow, Caitlin, thanks for coming on to our program today to kind of give our audience a little primer as to what they can expect to learn tomorrow. So I'm going to turn this over to you.
Great. Thank you, Scott, for having me on tonight. I'm so excited for the first round of a speaker for tomorrow night, as you said, 7 p.m. Central. So we're going to have Paul Knightley, who is part of the Arkansas Center for Space and Planetary Sciences.
Awesome.
And a couple years back, he did a really exciting expedition to basically middle of nowhere, Canada, with a team that was sponsored by funding out of NASA and the Canadian Space Agency to essentially have them live in a simulated dome and live out as astronauts as how they would live out on Mars. And they had tasks that they had to do for several weeks, very limited communications. And so he's going to describe his experience being a simulated Martian astronaut.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I guess he'll tell us all the pros and cons of being involved in a project like that. You know, the show, will you focus on, is your show just going to focus pretty much on one speaker for each series or each episode? How do you see the 7 months of science playing out?
Yes, so it's once a month. Of those once a month series, then it will have a featured speaker for sure. And then any updates that we would have in the astronomy and planetary community that the public may want to be aware of, especially with the Astronomical League, some very important events coming up, especially near the end of the year, any kind of events in the community with that. So it's going to be a nice little update once a month, but mainly with a keynote once a month for that. So all types of astronomy speakers is what we have lined up so far. So very excited to get at least our June speaker nailed down soon.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay. All right. So you guys will definitely want to tune in tomorrow. We'll have Kent Martz on tomorrow with First Light Chronicles. And then, actually, no, we're doing a little change. Now, this is only if Dr. Daniel Barth's mouth is actually working after he had to have another, I think he had to have another surgery today, you know, all dental work. And so, but he was in no condition yesterday to have a show. And so we'll see if it works out for Wednesday or not. It'll either be Dr. Daniel Barth on How Do You Know tomorrow at 4 Central, or it will be Kent Martz on First Light Chronicles at 4. So you'll know when you see it, okay? So I can't tell yet. But on any account, I'm really excited, and Caitlin, we're really honored to you know, have your program run on our network here, and so it's really awesome, and I think we're going to learn a lot. So thank you very much. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. And is there anything else you wanted to add before we segue over to Jerry?
I honestly, here at NASA, we're still drum rolling and counting down a clock right now of the next NASA Discovery mission is to be announced early June. So we're all very a little anxious and a little excited of which the next Discovery mission is going to be announced.
There is a question. Cameron Gillis would like to know. We have, of course, a lot of our regulars watching today. Let me just recognize some of them. We have Mike Wiesner was the first one to log on. Harold Locke is on as well. As I mentioned, Cameron Gillis. Pekka is watching from Sweden. Tommy Adams. Tommy, thank you for watching. Book Davies. He says AFK but listening. Okay. And Jeff Wise is watching, which is great. Aaron Thompson, good day again, guys. Good day to you. And Richard Grace says hello. Who else? I already said Jeff Wise, right? And Bergman Scooter's watching. Wallace Ronald Delvaux, thanks for watching. Norm Hughes is watching, which is great. He says, good afternoon, Star Watchers. Milad let me see if I'm pronouncing this right. Jalali is what it looks like. Says hello. And Laura Clardy is watching, and which is nice. And Gary Albin. So some new faces here. It's nice to have you log in and chat with us a little bit. Cameron would like to know, Caitlin, how long you expect your program to air? Like half an hour, an hour?
About an hour.
About an hour. Okay.
Yep.
So there you go. Yep. And, of course, we have the live chat, so I'm sure they're free to ask questions or whatever after he gives his presentation. So I'm
Absolutely.
excited. This is
Yeah.
cool. I don't think I've actually interacted with anybody that has tried to live the life of someone being a colonist on Mars. So that'll be a first for me. So
Yeah, it was interesting when because I know I've known Paul for a while, and I was so excited that he agreed to tell his daring tales. And
Yeah.
but I remember when he got back from his trip, and oh boy, the stories. So I'm
Really?
excited to. Oh yeah, I mean you have to kind of play it out as like a real life simulation. So when his
Yeah.
communications were very limited, he really got to understand like, oh, okay, you know what? Communications are not only limited, you're
Yeah.
also very much delayed when you're
I
on
see.
Mars versus Earth. So they really did a very good simulation in that regard there. But he's a geologist. He had fun with playing with
Okay.
rocks. So,
No,
you know,
no
he'll be
drama.
fine.
There wasn't anybody trying to kill each other or anything like that.
I hope not. I'm not, well, we're gonna find out tomorrow night.
Because
No,
in
aren't
every
we?
movie where they go and colonize something, somebody's trying to kill somebody. So, but I just kind of think that wouldn't really happen. So, okay, well, that's great. Thanks very much, Caitlin. And Jerry, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to go over some things with the firmware. We've got great support in the OpenGOTO community, as everybody knows. Wes McDonald's been my right-hand man working this firmware. But we've had, since we released it, it's been almost a month, almost exactly a month ago. We've had some users find some little things and that we've been able to correct, and we've released little updated firmware versions. This last one is really a long time in getting it. It was a month long, and people use their systems like, sometimes they use them like you don't expect all the time. You built the features into the control system to handle it, right? But but you're not sure how the interaction is going to go with the control program like Nina or APT or something like that to manually. And this particular issue was discovered by Louise Sanchez and also confirmed by Jenny Shelley. So I want to thank them. I want to thank them for bringing this to our attention when they did. And it was kind of a head scratcher for Wes and I. But we've gotten to the bottom of it. We actually have it fixed now. We've sent fixed versions of the firmware to Jenny and Louise for them to try out to make sure it is fixed. And I think I was explaining this a little bit to you earlier, Scott, about what it is. It's so and the Explore Stars doesn't show it. That's the other interesting thing. So Explore Stars application, when it's controlling the mount, doesn't really show the issue, but the ASCOM driver does. So you would say, so naturally you would say, oh, maybe it's the ASCOM driver, but it was this firmware. And it has to do with the way the control systems work in manual mode. So as everybody knows, the Explore Stars, when you hit a button, a manual button, and you set the rate, it ramps up, it steps up in rate, and it has that nice melodious tune, you know,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So it does that when it ramps up and down. It's a step ramp and not a smooth ramp. And so the incremental changes in rate are like that. But the way these other outside ASCOM control programs work, like POTH does this too, Nina, and so when you hit a manual button and you hit a rate,
Yeah.
right, it jumps from 0 to instantaneous full speed. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
So the mountain driver and the motors can handle it. It's no big deal there.
Yeah,
You
but
might,
it might hit you in the head or something, right?
well, it starts immediately moving, but there was a little subtle thing in the motor driver section of the one. There's two control two CPUs dedicated to just moving the motors, and then there's two more CPUs in the processor that are dedicated to monitoring the operation of the motor. But this little bit of in the driver section, the way it calculates the pulse, the time between pulses to manage the speed it's going to move.
Yeah.
That calculation sometimes it's a wrapping problem with a counter. The way we were calculating it gets a little esoteric here. I don't want to get too much detail, but it's basically a problem with the way we calculated the period for it between pulses, basically.
So it's a timing thing.
It's a timing issue that only showed up when you jump from 0 to some rate, max rate, and it was intermittent. That's the other thing. So you had to do it like
wonderful.
20 or 30 times. Like you would go from stop to full speed, stop, full speed, stop, full speed, stop, full speed.
It worked every time.
And it worked, and all of a sudden it failed.
Sometimes.
And then the way the counter would work it, the counter would have to wrap around the full 32-bit number, which is, it's 59 seconds for it to time out. So it stretched that duration out to 59 seconds. So the mount would freeze, and it's only on the right ascension axis also. That's another thing. It wasn't on the deck axis. So it stretched that time out to where it took, once it locked up, it would be there for 53 seconds, or 49 seconds actually. The other 4 seconds, it's actually a 53-second time period, but but with this particular problem, it came out as 49 seconds. So it would sit there and just stop for 49 seconds. And then it would release again, and then you can move the buttons back and forth, back and forth. So that's the kind of weird problems that we had with this particular bug. And
so it will like accumulate error or something like that until
it's an integrated. That's exactly right. The counter would integrate.
Stuck.
So we changed the method we used to keep track of the duration. We used instead of a relative clock measurement, we did an absolute measurement where we were integrating the time, and we thought we had handled that. It's a wraparound issue with the counts. So once that buffer fills up, once that 32-bit buffer or number fills up, it goes from 16 million whatever up back to 0. Okay, and now it was waiting to get to a previous number that was 16, a little bit less than that, 16 million. So now it had to wait for it to go from 0 all the way to 16 million before it would release itself. So that's kind of the gist.
Which only took 49 seconds.
It took 49 seconds, right? Mm-hmm.
I see.
So that's the kind of the gist of the problem.
So it wasn't like the whole system was failing. It would just like.
Well, that's a key thing about, right, exactly. So that's something that's interesting about the design of the system and the way we use the propeller chip. The propeller's got 8 CPUs that are independent of each other.
Right.
So the fact that we isolated to this one, to the right ascension motor, we knew the deck was working. We knew the command interpreter, which is another CPU, was taking commands. We were getting logs. We were getting all this stuff. So the log files all worked. The communications was showing us what was going on. So that's how we first looked at it, was with the log file. And then we determined, yeah, it's the right ascension. And then we determined, yes, it's the right ascension driver process. That helps a lot when you're troubleshooting, when you have the systems like that where they're
isolated
and they're isolated, so that helps a lot. Yeah. And Caitlin probably knows about that a little bit about the systems. that NASA uses. I'm sure they're very deterministic and good for troubleshooting things.
Sure.
But so that's what we fixed today, and it took us all of, after we investigated, it took us like 3 or 4 days to figure out where exactly what was going on, and then we fixed it today, and we'll be releasing that patch. Now, this is something that people may not use. I mean, only like maybe 5% of the people would actually
Maybe 5%.
yeah, manually when using ASCOM, usually when you're taking pictures with ASCOM and you got your programs up, you're doing plate solving and you're letting the system run itself. You're not typically manually moving the mount around with the push buttons, for the
Right.
most part. You might do it if you're at the scope and you want to look at centering on the object maybe. But typically you rely on
Maybe
plate
it's with a
solving.
finder. I can see doing it with a finder. I mean, if you're at top speed, okay, and you got a wide field finder, maybe like a Telrad or something.
Yeah, right.
Like a zero power finder.
Right, but again, you got to
Yeah,
manipulate
that
the
would be-
computer. You got to manipulate the computer at the same time you're looking through the eyepiece or the finder. That's the only thing. It's not really I don't think it's a
see.
use case that's not used very much. Let me put it that way. Probably you don't have your hands on the computer pushing the button while you're looking through the eyepiece. Over here.
I usually
somewhere.
drag my whole desktop up to the eyepiece.
Yeah, you put there and you mount it on the
I hold it on the
right. You got your laptop. You got your laptop holding
my eyes on the other, and then I've got my mouse and my keyboard.
Right, exactly. So
It would be hard. Yeah, but I can see it being done.
But that was what's neat about if anybody's going to find anything, it's going to be the greater community in terms of bugs.
Yeah,
Somebody
that's
will
true.
run across it, and
That's true.
the fact that it was
That's cool.
intermittent
So
was
Beatrice and who else found it?
it was Luis Sanchez
Luis Sanchez. Great.
and Jenny Shelley,
Oh, and Jenny.
Jennifer Shelley.
Yeah. Okay.
She's on.
Vidal Shelley, I guess, is her middle name.
Is it?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Well, that's cool.
She might be on the. I don't know if she's on the program today.
She might be.
But and Wes, was the lead guy on troubleshooting the problem.
Right.
The first thing is to be able to repeat it, to replicate it at our own, and that's what I was able to do today for the first time, was replicate the problem. Wes stepped me through.
Yeah, you were going to try to demo it, and I'm sure if you tried to demo it, it would work.
Yeah. Well.
So you wouldn't be able to get it to fail.
Well, that's the thing. Well, it's intermittent. So the G11, and the other thing is that it shows up faster on the iAccess 100 as opposed to the G11, which makes no sense at all because they're identical systems pretty much. Same firmware, same design, hardware design. So we'd have to noodle that out a little bit. Why is there differences in that? I don't know what it would be, but we did notice that there's a difference between the G11 box, the big box, and the iAccess 100. If people don't, let me go to the website real quick, and I can show people what I'm talking about. I don't know if anybody's out there familiar with the big box or the iAccess 100, so I'll just show that real quick.
Sure.
For people in the future that watch this video, they'll know what I'm talking about. Let's see, Explore Scientific. Oh, there's my dog, right on time.
I hear him.
Yeah. Let me see here, astronomy, mounts. All right. I'll share. I'll zoom up on this screen too when I get to it here.
Okay.
All right. So you see that? I'm going to zoom up a little bit. All right. So this is what the big box looks like here on the G11. And I'll click on that and maybe we'll see some better stuff here. So that's it right there. So that's the Model 2A. That's the Model 2A PMC-8
Mhm.
hardware.
Okay.
And go back. And I'll
And
go to
before we
this one.
get too much further down the road here, Cameron Gillis does want to know, can you set up the PMC-8 to auto-populate GPS coordinates and timing and connect through the ASI Air Pro?
All the timing, since the mount controller's designed a little bit different than most others. The mount controller itself, which is in that big box or inside the iXOS 100 that I'm showing here,
Yeah.
does not have a real-time clock. It relies on your computer system that connects to it to keep track of the time. So if you have a host computer, whether it's a laptop or a desktop or even a tablet for ExploreStars, it relies on getting the time from
GPS and
GPS
time and
time from
everything from your
from the host
tablet
computer.
or computer.
Right, exactly. So in fact, that's what we do at our observatory. So we've got a desktop at the observatory, but we've got an external USB USB GPS receiver plugged in to it, and we've got a program that we use to synchronize the time of the computer to the GPS clock. It's very accurate. It's good. It sets the clock to 1 millisecond precision, which is like a laboratory clock.
Yeah.
In some regards. So this is what the iXOS 100 looks like in terms, and the mount controller is built into this part of the mount. It's a smaller board. In fact, I've got one here I can show you.
You're showing the iXOS 100 mount.
Yeah, that's iXOS 100. So I don't know if, let me stop my share and go to my screen. And this is how big the board is.
Oh, wow. Okay.
All right, and this right here is the Wi-Fi module, and we have the USB port over here that plugs in for the cable, and then we have these two connectors. One is the SD4 port, and one is the declination access connector. And then if you can see these two white connectors right here, they're like little computer connectors. I don't know if you've been inside your computer, but you see these cables that run to these little computer connectors. Mm-hmm. This one runs to the RA axis motor. So the RA axis motor is internal cabling, wiring, and then the declination axis comes through this port. So if you go back to this, I can show you. Let's see the cable here?
Yeah.
Right there. So, and this shows you the side of the board. The declination cable runs there. You can see the USB port there, and then the power coming in, that's 12 volts. So that's how that looks. So that was the first thing I wanted to talk about. Is there any more questions about that? So we'll be issuing that patch in the next couple of days.
Yeah, there was one more
It's
question.
actually more of a patch. It's the whole updated EEPROM or updated firmware EEPROM file. So you'll get that. We'll announce that on the forum.
Okay. And Cameron says, so if I connect the tablet with ExploreStars, I can use that for timing and coordinates, and then connect USB to ASI Air Pro, right?
I'm gonna hedge a little bit. I'm gonna say that the new firmware supports connecting both the ASCOM driver through the serial port or the ExploreStars. All right. So Nina runs on what does he run Nina on? It's got to be running on a host computer, right? So you've got to connect up. So what I was getting at there is that you don't have to switch the channels anymore. They're both available to connect to all the time now with the new firmware. So if he's going to use Nina on a host computer connected through the serial port, he needs to set his clock on the host computer for Nina to use. I assume that's what it references when it's doing its calculations. It's using the time on the host computer. It's not using a time reference from the mount itself. It doesn't make any sense to do that. It doesn't seem to me. So Nina would rely on the computer system to be the time to be set correctly, and the location. Now the location parameters are set in the ASCOM driver. That's true. And sometimes the client program will allow you to set the location parameters, longitude and latitude, and your elevation in the client program, and it can push them out. There's a function in the ASCOM driver that allow you to push that information out from the application to the mount to update the mount coordinates. And again, that goes into, for us, it goes into the ASCOM driver profile. It doesn't live in the mount itself. It's still on the host computer, but it lives in a profile that's on the mount, on the ASCOM driver profile. So I hope I didn't make that too complicated to understand. Basically, it comes down to whatever host computer is running the application, that's where the time is set.
Chris Larson says, any idea when the PMC-8 will be back in stock? This astrophotography with Alt-Az is for the birds. Chris, we have shipments are going to be trickling in, but you know, there's such a big backlog with dealers and with individual consumers. So it's kind of like, as soon as some come in, they're already gone. So you're going to want to, I think the best shot will be to follow up with a dealer that places a lot of orders, you know, some of the larger dealers, which might include like High Point Scientific, OPT, Woodland Hills, some of these others here in the States. If you're waiting to get it direct, again, it's done by date. It's first in, first out. So it's going to be like that. I would imagine that we're going to start to see the PMC-8 products come in as summer hits, and then I certainly hope that we're fairly flush by the end of the year, where you can just easily buy it from stock. But you need to get an order in with somebody, so if you haven't done that already.
Right. Yeah, the Access 100 has been a good seller for us. It's a breakthrough
Crazy.
product. It's a
Yeah.
breakthrough product, and we're always making it better, which is like Scott said, this new release we did with the firmware last month was like a brand new mount. There's a lot of new features that, you know, that make it much easier to use and even more flexible. I mean, that's flexibility and margin and operation and performance. That's kind of what we're trying to shoot for. Sometimes it takes a while with the resources we have to do this work, but we're enlisting the help of the OpenGOTO community, which is an awesome community of people that are really interested in getting the best out of their mount and making it better.
There's another question from Jim Norwood. He says, "Can Jerry give us a brief overview of what steps I need to take to update the firmware on my iXOS 100? Where to find the files, instructions, and such?"
Yeah, I can step through that. We've got a little bit of time. Just not that I want people to go try to find it. We did do this about a month ago.
Yeah.
But I'll do it now again so that people understand. It may not be quite as comprehensive as the last time, but I'll give you the steps on what you do. One unfortunate thing I'm gonna share with you that it's because of my negligence is I have not updated the page on our website with the latest stuff. So basically, in order to get it right now, you have to be on the forum, unfortunately, or fortunate for us. I mean, we want as many people as we can to get on the forum, but that's one of the things right now. I've got on my list of stuff. It's near the top of the stack to get our Explore Scientific website up to date with the latest downloads. but so I haven't done that yet. I apologize for that. So let me go to the groups IO. On the main forum, this is what it looks like. And Scott, you might want to post the link out there for people that if people have their PMC-Eight and they want to get the firmware to go ahead and join. If they haven't joined already, go ahead and share the link on how to join that.
On groups.io. I'm
Yep.
not doing that. Okay.
Yep.
Sure.
So on the main group, to get this thing, you sign in and then you go to Files down here on the left-hand side, the Files menu item, and you'll see it here. These are the list. I'm going to zoom in. You guys probably can't hardly see that. Is that better?
Yeah.
All right, so let me go back to home. All right, so you go to Files down here on the left side menu, and then here you'll see some stuff, and then you'll see at the bottom PMC-Eight 20A01 firmware installation kit. Okay, and that has 4 things in it, and I'll go ahead and show you that. I may have to reshare my screen because I'm just sharing this one thing now. I'll just tell you what's in this thing as soon as I get it open here. Come on. All right, so there's 4 files. There's the firmware EEPROM file. It's a .eeprom file. That's the firmware itself. Then there's a ESPMC-Eight setup executable program, which is the ASCOM driver. So this requires another ASCOM driver, the latest ASCOM drivers have worked with this firmware. And then I've got in that file, I've got another thing which is new, which I'll show you. It's called the PMC-Eight Universal Firmware Configuration Tool. And then finally, I've got a document called the Firmware Features document, which talks about, it's like the release notes for that. And I've also got, if you look here on the download file, there's a separate download for that features thing if you're interested in looking at that. So this is what it looks like here. So that's the firmware update, and so you want to go here because this will tell you what to do after you download that. And I've got a link. It's kind of a recursive thing. I've got a link to that file so you can download it and look at this file before you looked at it. So these are the things that are in it. Can you see that all right? I guess it's big enough.
Yeah, it's okay.
So you're going to download the zip file. You're going to unzip and run the installation program for the configuration manager. So that'll run. So there's two programs. One's called the configuration manager, and the other one's called the universal firmware configuration tool. That can be confusing because they got similar names. The universal firmware configuration tool is more geared towards the hardware configuration, the parameters that get stored within the PMC-Eight itself. The configuration manager does some of that, but it's also got some other features that aren't in the firmware configuration tool, and I'll show you that through this document. So this is what the configuration manager looks like. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a way to send commands and to do other things, and it has got a terminal window here that shows you the results. And to load the firmware, you can either use this advanced tab and manually locate the firmware file and select it. That's what this little thing is here. There's a button you press to select the file, and then you upload it, and it comes back and this is what you see when it's loading it.
Okay.
Or you can go on the firmware tab. It also allows you to do that. So let me bring that up real quick and I'll show you what it actually looks like here. I got to switch windows. Actually, I'm going to go to my full-blown screen one so I don't have to keep switching back and forth. So now you see this?
Yes.
All right, so this is what you would do. So I've got the firmware on our website, which is what this is on our FTP site to get the firmware. So what you're going to do is you're going to run this program after you install it from the zip file, and you're going to go to this tab, firmware, and you're going to hit download, and it will show you what's available. Now, I didn't do something. All right, I didn't go back and tell it what mount I had. I told it I had the G11. I'm trying to think that it should show the latest version. So what I'm struggling with right now, of course, with this presentation is that when you go to firmware, you can connect to the serial port. I think because I'm on the G11. That's the wrong. I mean, I'm on the XS100. I think it's got the wrong. No, that should be the correct one. Find current connection. Let me try that.
Are you talking about the correct firmware?
Well, this is just trying to go out and locate the PMC-Eight is connected to, okay, so it's on form. Okay, there. So now when I go to the firmware and it downloads, I'm going to refresh this. It's going to, so it figured out what the firmware was. You see here?
Okay, so let's go back a couple of steps and then just review that exactly how that's supposed to work.
So when you first start this thing up, it comes up like this, and then you go to firmware.
Okay.
And you got to have your PMC. If you want to use the feature to find out the version, you have to connect your PMC-Eight up to the serial port.
Okay.
And select your mount type here under connection. It will discover. If you don't know what the COM port is, you can hit find, and that'll give you a list
for you. Okay.
That'll give you a list, and it tells you the PMC-Eight is connected on COM port 4. That might be a little text. You might not be able to read that, but that's what this window says. It tells you it's on COM 4. And then once you know that, then you can go to the firmware tab. All right, and hit refresh. And then hit download. And you see it came up with a different list of firmware that's available for the iXOS 100. All right, so these are the previous versions. It gives you the previous versions and also the latest one. So the one we're talking about is 20801. That's what you'll see. So what you'll do, you'll select that. All right. And you can see here on the, I don't know if you can read that or not. On the window, it tells you what's going on. You'll sit there, so you'll select this, and then you'll say flash selected. And it warns you to perform this only if you're 100% certain you know the applications. Which means you just update. It's not like you can't break it. You really can't break it.
Okay.
If it doesn't work, it's gonna still have the old firmware.
But you can't still.
You just need to understand that it's getting ready to write new firmware.
Okay.
And it says make sure you have the PMC-Eight plugged into your serial port. Hit OK. And it says it might take a few minutes, and then press OK. And you see how it's running this little thing.
It seems a little overcautious, though. You know, if you understand the implications, you know, like maybe we want to soften that a little bit.
Yeah, that was Chris. Chris put that in there. This code's been around for almost 2 years now, so
okay,
that's the way we staged it early on. We can clean it up, but
yeah.
So now you've loaded your firmware. Now it's on there.
Yes.
So you're done with this program. So now, and that's what this shows in the document. So now we're going to install the driver, the ASCOM driver. Okay. There's a couple things to keep in mind here that I'll talk about in a minute. Let me see. Do I have the picture of the driver here? No, I don't. I'm surprised. So let me bring that up. You'll run through the installation, and then what you'll do is you'll use a client program to configure it. Okay. You'll just run that executable and step through it. And you have to have the ASCOM platform installed first, just to let you know. Let me get out of this. So you'll just run that executable, and the executable is this one here. Where's it at? Right here. It's called the driver executable file. That's in that zip file that you downloaded. All right. You'll run that and step through it, and you'll just hit OK, and it'll install it. And then what you'll do is you'll start a client. Like I'm going to start Poth. Poth is part of the platform, the ASCOM platform. You'll go to Setup, and you'll go Choose Scope. And then you get the chooser, and then you say, which one do I'm looking for the PMC-Eight. Where is it at? Where's it at? Oh, there it is. It's right there. Now you won't have as many choices as I do because I've got a ton of crap on here. Different drivers for different things that I use in testing. But you might have one or two or maybe three different drivers depending on what other mounts you might have. But you'll select the ESPMC-8 telescope mount. You go to Properties, and then it'll come up with this window. Now, again, this probably is a little bit small to see. I could actually, let me do this. I can make it really big if it'll do it. Let's see. Did it do it? Is it big?
It's big.
Okay, good. I'm looking back at my TV to look and see what it looks like. Yeah, that's good. Okay, good.
Ask the guys in Mission Control what they think.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, you guys, are they there? Okay, so now when you download this driver, this is the latest release version right here.
Uh-huh.
It's 2021-0410D. All right, so you'll select your mount. Like I've got the iXOS 100 connected right now. I know it's on COM port, what was it, 4?
4.
Yep. And you got two radio buttons up at the top here. One says serial port. That's the one you want to select if you're on the serial connection.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on Wi-Fi, you can select that and you can go to the wireless port setup, and that's set up for the iXOS 100. It's got a note here. If you got the iXOS 100, then you need to select this board for wireless.
I see.
But I'm not going to use wireless today. I'm just going to use serial. So the serial port setup is all that matters. And then you've got your site data. All right. Your latitude, longitude, and your elevation. Some client programs that you're going to connect to the mount to keep information on your telescope stuff. That's why this is included, but this is optional. All these values are optional unless you have a specific need for your ASCOM program client that might want to use it. Like Nina might use it to know what instrument is on that mount. Maybe that's really all this is about, is what instrument is on that mount. And some programs use it and some programs don't. So once you get that set, and you might have some auto guiding stuff that you need. So you need to set the pulse guiding information. And there's a miscellaneous thing if you want to see what's going on and create log files if you're having problems, or if you want to see the communications that goes back and forth between the telescope and your computer, you can turn the trace on. That's a log that creates a huge log of information telling you exactly what's going on with the mount. That's really nice to have when you're troubleshooting problems, like I said earlier. So once you set it up like that, then you can say, okay. And then you okay there. And then on path, I stopped sharing. Let me go back. On path, you'll set okay, and then it'll come up with the hand controller. Let me go ahead and share that. See if I can do that. Yep. Share. Is that working?
Yes.
All right, now once you've got it running and you know that it's set up, now you should be able to hit the connect. And then I'm going to cross my finger that this actually, I'm looking at my bench to see that it's powered up and everything, that it's going to connect the first time. So I'm going to hit connect. And there it is. You see? Okay. That looks pretty good on the screen. I'm looking back at my TV.
Yeah.
All right. And now,
Go ahead.
Now your mount's ready to use. You unpark the mount and you can turn tracking on with path and move it around, or you can connect an application to it. So I'll do that. I'm gonna I've got cart to seal connected. I'll connect that up. So let me stop sharing and I'll reshare cart to seal. All right, there it is. All right, you see that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now I'm going to connect cart to seal up to the path. I don't know if you see this little window that I'm manipulating. I'll do this. I'm going to stop again and share this little window so you'll know what it looks like. All right. So when you hit the button to connect to the telescope, it'll come up with this window. And since I'm going to use path to talk to the mount, that's what I got to select here. And then I'm going to hit the connect button at the bottom. And these are green, tracking and park are green because I selected that on the path before. I unparked it and I turned tracking on. So that's why it's like that. So now let me go back to cart to seal. Got that now. And I've got this side window up. I'm going to close that for now. So now this white circle shows where the mount is pointed right now. And the center of the chart is right here where the red circle is. So I'm going to track telescope, which means it's going to put the center of the chart where the telescope's pointed at right here. All right, so you can see I don't know if you can see it, red and white circles are overlapped. So now let me go to an object. I'm going to go to M97, which I see it on the chart. I'm just going to select it in the search tool. And there it is, M97.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to make sure my mount is clear. I don't have any telescope on it right now. I'm just going to make sure it's there. And I'm going to hit the slew button up here in the upper right hand. And there it goes.
Yep, I hear it.
Now, I could show you on the observatory this and show you the telescope moving also, but we're running out of time now. But this is exactly what we do in the observatory. This is how we control it with path and with cart to seal. And so let me zoom up on it, and you'll see. Go here. That it's near, right on the center. let's see, turn. There it is. So that's what you should experience if everything works correct with your software. That's a quick. That was 20 minutes or something maybe.
Yeah,
Explanation.
so if you were going to review that, just talking it through, what is step one?
Step one is to go to the PMC-Eight forum, which you gave a link for,
Right.
and join if you're not already joined, and go to the main group. You go to the main group page, home page, and then you can go on the left-hand side and select files, and you'll find the installation kit for the firmware at the bottom of the list, and you download that and unzip it. And then the first file you'll open is the PDF file that's the instructions on how to load stuff. And that's what I was showing on the screen. I can finish that real quick. Let's see if I still got it here. All right, so that's what these instructions are. It walks through everything, goes through what we did with the configuration manager to download to install the firmware. And then
when you download the package, you're going to see these instructions.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And then one thing I kind of glossed over, which is important. After you do that, you need to do this. I kind of jumped right back into moving the mount, but this is the next big thing you need to do. So let me start that up real quick and show you that. I'm going to disconnect it from the path. Okay. All right. So, come on. I'm going to start up the configuration tool. And share that. Oh, come on. Wasn't the right thing. All right, I can share my screen. So this is the first thing you want to do after you've installed the firmware. You're gonna, with the configuration manager, you're gonna stop the configuration manager, and you're gonna do this. Use this configuration tool. You see that?
Yeah.
All right. So what this does is this allows you to select the features that you want to turn on with the PMC-Eight. So I know I'm on COM4 and I'm going to get the current configuration and it's already going to be set up. So I'm not going to go into all the details. That document I showed you is going to have all the talk in detail about each of these features. But what you'll do is you'll select the features you want and the settings, which include the motor current and other things. You're going to check these boxes. And then you're going to hit set new configuration. So if you look here on this display, these are the step-by-step things that you're going to do, okay, in this order.
All right, so number one is connect the host computer to the PMC-Eight serial port.
Right.
Apply power to the PMC-Eight mount system.
Right.
Next.
And then you have to restart. If you brought this up before, you're going to have to restart that because then it will discover what COM ports you have. So now you're going to, if you started this up before you powered it up, you're going to hit this restart button, which is what
start and restart on the PMC-Eight itself?
Yeah, no, this program will stop.
Program.
This program will stop. So let me stop and restart it, and I'll have to reshare it again.
And then it'll discover the right port, correct?
And then it'll discover the right port, right? Oh, I don't want to do that. All right, so this is the message you get. All right, which say, okay, I did that. So now I'm gonna share my other screen again. And it'll pop up like this. And then you can, and then you know that, okay, I'm up and running. You did step Charlie. You restarted that. And then you're into Delta here. Select the PMC-8 COM port from the drop. And then your COM port should show up here in the listing. Before that, it might not show up. So it's important that you turn on the PMC-8 and get it connected before you start this program. And then you get the current configuration, which is this button here. So I'm going to do that, and it reads the value, and this is the communication that goes on to grab the values that populate here, and it shows you what the settings are currently. And then you can just change them like you want, and then hit set. Then you're going to hit set new configuration to make the change. And then that reboots the PMC-8 and the Wi-Fi module. So you'll see on the screen it's doing its thing here.
Okay.
It takes about 20 seconds. All right. When it comes back with this message, then you know it's good. It's up to date. And it shows you the updated configuration.
Okay. That should match the code string. That's
yeah. This code string gets decoded and
okay.
populates this information here.
Okay.
So, and then you can, if you want to see what a reboot looks like, you can hit this reboot show splash. So if you have any question at all about what's in the box, you can hit this, and you can see it says it's rebooting. And then it shows you the splash screen, and then it also shows you all the detail. And this is the information that we're going to want if we're troubleshooting a problem. You can use these buttons down here to save this text, and you can send it to us so we know what your configuration is.
Yeah.
So that's what this is for. And that's it. I took a little extra time. That wasn't quite as simple as what he asked for probably, but I figured it was a good time just to go through it again.
Okay. All right. So, any other questions here? Chris Larson says, I missed Cam's presentation of the last GSP. I can't wait to hear about the Sky survey. Oh, yeah. Okay. We're going to have to get Cameron Gillis back on our program. We've been talking about doing a regular program with him anyway. So that's awesome. We appreciate all of you guys watching today. People were getting philosophical about living a more minimalistic life, which I also believe in. So, you know, I like that conversation. Anyhow, we will see you guys tomorrow. And as I mentioned, it will be either Dr. Daniel Barth or it will be Kent Martz. And most definitely it'll be Caitlin Ahrens on the first install of 7 months of science. So until that time, please do as my friend Jack Horkheimer always used to say to do, and that is to keep looking up. I wish you all clear skies, and we'll be back soon. Take care. So we're going to show you the PMC-8 line in the Exos 2 and the G11 system. G11 is the classic mount made by Scott Wasmandy out there in California. We've got it modified though with a PMC-8 system that has the stepper drives on both axes. This is a wired configuration. I have a NUC computer here running the whole system. It's running all my camera control software. It's running the SkyMap software and everything, also to run the PMC-8. In the back, we've got the telescope drive master that takes that plus or minus 5 arc seconds that Lost Mandy guarantees, down to 1 arc second or less periodic error. You can see I'm holding the electronic box here, and I'm going to mount that. I have a special mount that I've built where I'm going to mount it to the leg. But to show you the other parts of the telescope, we've got an Optec electric focuser that's mounted onto my ED-102 carbon fiber. I've got an ED-80 here. Now, you might think this is too much mount for these little telescopes, but I'll tell you that when we're using this out in wind or in adverse conditions or anything, I mean, this thing's the Rock of Gibraltar. So
You can't have too much mount.
that's true. That's true. And let's learn more about what you got over here.
So over here, I've got our Exos 2 with PMC-8 system, which is the same exact controller as on the G11. The same stepper motors, both on the RA and deck axis. On the mount, we have a Essential Series 127 telescope. This telescope also comes in a ED-80 version and a ED-102 version. And it's a spectacular mount. This is a configuration that I use when I go to star parties.